All right. So I am very new to all of this, but I decided to do a live drawing session today. So I am live on both YouTube and Instagram. So if there's any weirdness happening right now, it's because I'm dealing with a lot of technical stuff all by myself that's quite new. So I hope everyone can hear me. If there's any issues hearing me, just let me know. But all I really wanted to do was go live for a little while and just work on the Mentor of Blades, which is the current card that I have to finish in that Afro tarot. The Kickstarter campaign has been submitted for review, and I expect it to be, ready for launch on May 30th. So if anyone has any questions about that, or just any comments, definitely let me know. Aiden Reads Tarot commented, "This is so cool" on YouTube. Thank you, Aiden. So right now, if I zoom out, you can see most of the rendering is done on the throne for the queen, but I do need to kind of get rid of some of the line art behind the clouds, and obviously the queen herself, she's flat. All of her colors are just the plain colors with no shadows or anything like that. So I am just first going to start off by kind of cleaning up some of these lines that are appearing where they shouldn't because other elements are covering them. And from there, once I'm satisfied with the lines that I hide away, then I will go back and start rendering the queen. I only plan to stream for probably about an hour or so. So I'm going to just use my little timer here to get that set up. And once that beeps, then we'll go ahead and end. But if anyone has any questions or anything like that, feel free to put it in the chat and we will just go ahead and have some fun now. So right now I'm on the layer for her dress, but I need to get to the layer for the lines of the chair, of the throne itself. Let me see. Okay, so I can use this layer mask here to kind of hide away some of those lines without actually destroying them, because you never know, like, if you need to. Oh, am I on the right one? I might need to be on this one. Yeah, there we go. You never know if you need to bring some lines back, and working non-destructively just kind of helps you make sure that if you do need to refer to some original lines, they will be there. And I've got this throne kind of split on 2 layers of line art, so I can mask some of the lines with the layer that I'm on, but for the lines that you see that are not disappearing, I'm just going to have to jump back to that other layer mask, which is fine. Ah, that's here. And I don't need this to be drawing assisted, so I'm just going to turn that off. That already looks much better to me. It's I kind of shot myself in the foot putting everything on a separate layer for the line art for the throne, because now I've got 3 separate layer masks that I have to kind of bounce back and forth between, but it's okay. I've also got some lo-fi music playing in the background for you guys, so hopefully you can kind of hear that and enjoy that with me. Ah, wrong one. Oh, it's this one. The edge lines I did on their own layer. Alright, that already looks a lot better. Let's see. Up here we've got some lines we need to hide behind that sword. And I'm not sure which mask layer it's on, so I'm just going to pick one and try. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna mask this part of the throne as well, just so it's not appearing behind the air and water symbols. So let me see, I believe, yep. Okay, so for this masking, it's gonna be really small, so I don't need a huge size for my brush. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, the line art for the blades is really light. Like when I look at it, it looks gray compared to the rest of the line art. And I think I actually already have it set to multiply, but I'm gonna see if I can finagle with this. Yeah. It's just very gray, and it's not set to multiply, so let's see what that does. I think that looks better. I'm going to turn on my canvas reference just so I can actually kind of see what everything is looking like up in the corner. So that way I don't have to zoom in and out quite as much. And I just noticed in my YouTube live stream, oh, hi, Bon. I just noticed in my YouTube live stream that I keep like leaning my head into the camera. So I'm going to just try to like scoot it back a bit and see if that helps. Bear with me, because I do lean over my stuff. All right, so I've got my line art fixed. Well, not fixed, but it's darker for the blades now. But if you look at the blades themselves, I don't actually like them that much. And just to save on my layers, I'm going to merge the line art layers and the blade layers themselves. I don't need 4 separate layers for that. So something that I like to do with the blades in that Afro Drip Tarot is I actually really like adding noise to what would be the metal. I just think it makes a really pretty look for the finished thing. So I'm gonna do a freehand selection in order to make sure I don't get any part of the handle, because I don't want to apply noise to the brown part that I've painted. And then up here I can be really loose because it's only going to affect the pixels of the layer that are already colored in. Alright, so now that I've got both of those blades selected, I'm going to come up here to my magic wand tool, hit noise, and just add some noise to the blades. That's quite a bit of noise, and it looks kind of flat to me. So right now it's on a single channel. I'm going to change it to multi, because that kind of, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it kind of makes it more of a rainbow noise rather than just gray, if that makes sense. So I just kind of play with the additive and single versus multi settings until I get something that I like. And you can change the percentage of the applied effect by sliding back and forth up here if you're using Procreate. I don't know. I like the multi, but I don't want it too noisy to where it's like distracting. So I think I'm going to leave it at 25%. Let's see. I'm going to just preview it and see how that looks. I think I can work with that. So I'm going to apply that and close out my effects menu. And then I'm going to just tap on my selection icon to clear the selection. Now, something else that I like to do is to kind of indicate that the blade has a peak to it. So the way I do that, I'm in my selection tool again, and I'm going to freehand it again. And I'm going to just kind of eyeball and approximate where the center of that blade would be, where it connects with the hilt. And then I'm just going to come up to the tip of that blade and just kind of check that line. It's going right through the center of that triangle. So now I'm just going to come back and close my selection, being careful, again, not to get any of the brown part of the actual blade hilt itself. Oh, thank you, Aiden. Oh, hi, Ange. I see you guys. I'm having fun playing with streaming on multiple platforms. So I'm on Instagram and YouTube. So if I'm a little late responding to comments, I do apologize, but that is why. So I've got this half of the blade selected over here on the right hand side. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the left. Just kind of eyeball that center, tap that, come up to the very tip of the blade, kind of make sure it's going through the center of that triangle. It doesn't have to be, super perfect or precise, but you want it to look about right. And then I'm going to close that selection. So now I've got kind of like the front halves of the blades selected. And in order to make it look like there's a peak on that metal and that there's essentially two facets of the blade, I'm going to lighten the areas that I selected. So to do that, I'm going to touch my adjustments menu icon, the little magic wand again. And this time I'm going to go to hue, saturation, and brightness. And I'm just going to brighten up that half of the blade that's like facing out of the little nook inside of her throne. So hopefully you can kind of see that, where it's already created some contrast and difference in the brightness of the blades. So I'm just going to preview that to see the difference and kind of show you guys. I feel like it looks very washed out on YouTube, so I'm not sure why that is, but I like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to apply that. And then I'm going to press and hold on my selection menu to bring it back up without clearing the selection that I already have. And, oh, I see lots of people adding to the chat. Ikel Sunflower, this is actually the Queen of Swords. So this is the Mentor of Blades in that Afro Tarot. So when I brought up my selection mask again, what I'm doing now, oh, thank you, London. What I'm doing now is I'm going to invert that selection mask so that I have the other half of the blades, the part that was darker. And then I'm going to tap remove and use my freehand selection to just make sure I don't have any part of the hilt. So now you see these lines kind of popping up as my mask. I don't know if you'll really be able to tell, but yeah, like if there's a slight difference here where you can see anything with lines on it is not selected. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. There's lines on the lighter half of the blade, so I'm just going to remove everything that has to do with the hilt. And now I've got the darker parts selected. So to just give the blade some more contrast, I'm going to come back up to my adjustments menu, hue, saturation, and brightness again. And this time I'm just going to darken them slightly. I'm not going to do the same percentage of darkening as I did lightening, just because it'll make a little bit too much contrast in my opinion. But a good way you can add darkness to a hue without lowering the value is to saturate it some more. So here on the saturation menu, I'm just going to put more color into it, and that'll kind of add to the darkness that the eye perceives without putting more gray into the color, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that puts much better contrast there, so I'm going to apply that, and then to get out of both menus, I'm just going to tap select and it'll clear them both. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how these blades are looking, you know, just on their own, but we need some cast shadows from these blades. It would have to come down here, bend there, come up onto the book, and then kind of bend back down and then connect to the hilt. So these shadows are going to be quite fun. They're going to be very odd looking, but I think that that'll just add to the fun of actually putting them in place. So I have my Procreate set where I can actually jump from layer to layer by putting one hand on, I don't even know what that square button is designated, but over here where you can change your brush size and your brush opacity, there's this little square. So I have my Procreate set where if I touch that square and then touch an element on the screen, I jump to that layer. So I'll show it again with something else. So if you touch something that has multiple layers, like what I just did with the base color, the shading, and some more multiply layers for the throne, it's going to bring all of them up and ask you to pick which one you're actually trying to select. So I'm going to pick this shadow layer because it's on top. And as you can see, when we open up our layers menu, that's the layer that I'm on, and it's on top of all the other ones that little contextual menu showed me. You can see I've already got quite a lot of shadow layers. If I take them off, you'll see like the light hitting her, like the curved part of the wings is on a vivid light layer. I've got a linear burn layer for the shadows inside of these little nooks. So there's already quite a bit of shading, but with these blades right here, obviously that would cast another shadow. So I'm just going to add a layer on top of all these other shadow layers and press and hold to bring up my symmetry guide. That is the quick menu inside of Procreate. So if you're not familiar with what I just did, I have my quick menu set where I can just press and hold to bring it up, and you can actually change all of these settings here for what you're accessing. I use the drawing guide tool in Procreate quite a bit, so that's why I have the perspective, 2D, and symmetry guides available in my quick menu, because it's just much more cumbersome coming up here, tapping another menu, opening up a new context, configuring your perspective, and then exiting. I can just do that right here. So I have it set to symmetry, and I'm going to turn on drawing assist on this layer. Right now, let's see, let's come to classic. I'm going to shift to more of a purple hue for these shadows, mainly because it is the complement to yellow, and we've already got some purple clouds surrounding her, so it would make sense contextually to have some of that purple in the shadow hues. So I'm going to kind of desaturate it a little bit because I don't want it to be that harsh. And now I've got my color selected, I've got my drawing assistance turned on, and I'm just going to give myself permission to be very, very rough with this shadow because I don't need it to be perfect right off the bat. So just going to kind of do something that looks like it could be forming the base of this blade. And I actually think that looks decent. So I'm gonna add the shadow that would be coming from the hilt. And then to kind of indicate these little ridges, I'm gonna make my edge a bit softer, come back to my brush and make that much, much smaller, and then just kind of indicate them. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect because it's a shadow. Thank you, I Kill Sunflower. So with this, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to kind of fill in the shadow anywhere that it looks like, you know, I might have been too quick. And now I'm going to set that layer blending mode to something that will give me the shadow effect I'm looking for. Linear burn is actually not looking bad at all to me. Color burn I quite like because it's giving the shadow a faded effect from where more light would be hitting it, and making it darker here. So I actually quite like that. But we're going to look at some more options. Darken is not a good choice. Multiply can work. It's much more neutral. It looks very, very gray. But I think I like how there's more color to the shadow with color burn. So I'm just going to lower the opacity here to about, I think 55 looks pretty good. And I'm going to leave it there. Now, obviously, there's part of the shadow that is not shown on top of the book. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to make this one a clipping mask just like the one below it, because that's going to limit the pixels that show up to the area defined by the books themselves. So kind of like a stencil. I'm going to keep the same color that I have, and again, just going to kind of eyeball what the shadow should look like. And just, yeah, kind of go from there. Now, we all know, well, we might not all know, but because of the perspective that this book is sitting at, these shadows would not line up, because what would happen is this corner here is the bottom edge of the book. So this shadow is coming to that bottom edge, then coming up and over. So you know, if you're making shadows like that, just make sure you take into account the perspective that you're using, because that'll make them much more realistic. I'm gonna add just a couple of the ridges. And I'm gonna kind of slant this one as well. And let's make our brush smaller to indicate those ridges. That is definitely not perfect, but I think it'll work. And you know what? I actually made a mistake because I did not set this to drawing assist, so I would have it on both sides. But that's okay. I'll fix it. I'm just gonna kind of add to that shape just a little bit. Yeah, that looks better to me. Okay, so before I duplicate it, I'm going to play with my blending modes to try and get a match to the color that we have on the existing shadow. And because that purple is much darker than the yellow, color burn just makes it like almost black, which we don't want. Shadows are never black. I think multiply on like, I think multiply on like 70 is decent. Let me see, what is my color burn layer set to? It's at 55. So let's see what that does. That's 50. We can do 55. We'll do that. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Ange, for letting me know Shaniqua was live. I had urged to watch her interview with you today for some reason. Oh, She Walks in Beauty, thank you for hanging out with me. All right. So now I have the opacity set. I've got, you know, the general shape of that shadow. I'm still not fully in love with it. I think I need to bring it over some more. So I'm just going to kind of erase some of that out and add in some more, and the shadow still isn't lining up with what we have here on the yellow, so I think it still works. I think I want more contrast on that though, so bringing that up to about 70. And I'm gonna erase just a teensy bit more off of that edge there, just to really give that look like the blade is widening to go along with the design. And let's bring that part in a little bit. There we go. I think that looks much better. All right, so to account for the fact that I did not put this to a drawing assisted layer, I'm just gonna duplicate it, and then I'm gonna touch my transform tool, and I am going to flip it horizontally and then just drag it over. I have my magnetics turned on, so Procreate will give me these little indicator lines that say, hey, it's lined up with what you dragged it from. And that looks about right to me, about right there. Yep. So I'm going to turn that off and then double tap and merge down. So now both of those shadows are on the same layer. That looks much better to me. All right. So now I feel like we've got some good depth happening. I want a contact shadow up underneath of these books though, because they just look like they're on the same plane as the chair to me. So I'm going to use my layer jump trick, and I really should have jumped to the books, but that's okay. I'm going to come up underneath of the books now, and I think I'm going to make this darker because it's a contact shadow. So this is where light literally couldn't reach because it's against two surfaces. And I am going to turn on my drawing assistant so that way I can just draw it once and be done. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect, just trying to bring a little bit more realism. I'm trying to think, how do I want to do this? Let's see what that looks like. I'm not a huge fan. I think that looks better. I'm going to give it a teensy bit of a blur to the point where it probably doesn't even make much sense. Yeah, it's like 3% blur. See, yeah, 2% is still too sharp to me. All right, so we got like a 3% blur, and then let's see, multiply doesn't change it very much. Linear burn makes it very dark. It's very fun to play with blending modes and just see what results you get. I think I'm gonna leave it on normal, and then I'm just gonna make my eraser very, very, very tiny. And to clean up this shadow, I'm going to put my eraser down and hold and not lift up, because it'll create a line out of my erase stroke. And then I'm going to tap edit shape so I can control with these little blue nodes where that line goes and you know how sharp it is. And then I just tap when I'm done, and now both sides have been cleaned up because we're using drawing assist. And I'm just going to do the same thing over here without using, you know, the press and hold. Okay, I think that looks really good. So I could start rendering her skin. But I want to fix this throne behind her. I typically leave the skin for like last because I just feel like once that's done, everything has sort of come together. Okay, so I used clipping masks to give the gold part of her cushion its texture. So what I'm gonna do, oh, thank you, Moontide Oracle, appreciate it. So what I'm gonna do is just select the actual base layer with the flat color, and I'm gonna put it on freeform mode and just pull that down a bit because there was a gap there that I kept seeing that really bothered me. Okay, now I need to put the shadow underneath of the throne, but I'm sort of hesitant to do that because I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. That's very, very yellow. I'm gonna leave it pale. Yeah, I don't like that at all, so I'm gonna empty that layer. And I can actually use this as my shadow layer. I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit and raise the size of my brush, turn drawing assist on, and I'm just gonna kind of see, it'll work. But it needs to be a clipping mask. Okay. I don't love it, but let's see what happens. Let's make this a bit bigger, and I might have to actually turn off my clouds for a second so I can fully see what's wagwan, you know. Okay, I think that actually looks better. So it's already set to multiply, but I don't quite like how that shadow looks. I think linear burn looks better than multiply, because multiply just looks very gray. I can still see texture with the linear burn. So I'm going to leave it set to linear burn. There's going to be shadows cast from her body onto the throne itself. So I can actually indicate that as well. I'm going to make another clipping mask. And for now, I'm just going to do contact shadows. Oh, I'm on erase. I was like, why is it not drying? For now, I'm just going to kind of do contact shadows. I can get, well, these aren't contact shadows. These would be cast shadows. But I can get more precise with exactly what her body casts, you know, once she's closer to done. I think linear burn is probably gonna be, oh, that might be too dark. I actually kind of like color burn here. It's given the throne a curvature that I was actually going for, so I quite like that. But I'm noticing I do need a contact shadow up under her feet. So I'm gonna come back to my first layer that I was working on. Oh, you know what? That one is drawing assisted, so let me turn off my drawing assistance and just put some shadows under her feet. I feel like I lost contrast here, so I'm definitely going to have to be sure to render her shoes in a way that they don't look like one gray blob. And then I should probably do, like, some shadows, like, for the clouds. What do you guys think? I actually kind of like that. Yeah, for some reason that makes the clouds feel more real to me. Let's see. All right, so we got 27 minutes left on my little timer. So we're a little bit more than halfway through the stream. So if anyone has any questions about the deck or anything like that, I'm open to listen. What do I want to do? I'm trying to decide, do I want to go ahead and start rendering her skin, or do I want to do some shadows on her dress? But you know what, I do need to sort of do something with her, the actual hilts of the blades. So how they're sitting, light would be hitting them from above, and they would get darker as they go to the bottom. But also this, like the topmost side would be getting more light than the bottommost side. So how do I want to handle that? I'm going to jump to my swords. Oh, I touched a layer mask. I wonder if it'll let me pick my sword. Okay. So now I'm back at my swords layer, and I'm going to put another layer on top of them. But first, well, actually, I can, yeah, I'll just, as a matter of fact, yeah, I'll make this a clipping mask. And then I'm going to, let me see. I've got a color palette layer in here somewhere. That was primarily for the throne, but that's okay. So I'm gonna grab my eyedropper and grab my brightest yellow and just desaturate that a little bit and make sure I'm on the right layer. I'm gonna drawing assist this one just because they are mirroring each other. Alright, so I actually think that looks decent. I'm gonna erase some of it though, because I just don't think the light would be that harsh. Okay. And now to indicate the shadows underneath of the ridges, I'm just going to erase out where that light is hitting. Okay. And now I'm going to set this to a light blending mode. Normally I go for like overlay, but it's always good to just kind of play and see. Pin light seems okay. Overlay is super, super, super subtle. I can see the difference, but man. So I'm going to duplicate it. There we go. And then I'm going to lower the opacity of one of the duplicates to about 50% and merge those together. Oh, wait, no. So when I merge them, it actually kind of cancels out the effective one. So it's cool. I'll just leave it as 2. Okay, so I think But now I need a shadow layer to kind of balance out the brightness that I have. And instead of using just like the environmental color of the yellow that I have, I'm going to color pick the actual brown that is being used for the hilt. I think it's in a decent mid-range between yellow and red. So I'm just going to push it slightly more red just because it's right next to this purple. So it's going to pick up some of that color contextually. And with it being darker, I think I should be able to just kind of paint over and get the effect that I want. But let's put this on drawing assist. Yeah, I can't even see that. So let's darken it. Linear burn is decent. Color burn, linear burn. I think I'm going to leave this one on color burn, and I'm going to smudge this edge here because it's just very sharp. Very, very, very sharp. And then to indicate the highlights, I'm going to come back over here and just, ooh, that was, it was a paint stroke. I don't know why. Oh, I have double tap set on, so that's how I switched from eraser to pencil. But it's okay. All right, so this is really tiny, so now I'm just going to kind of come up onto those ridges that are, you know, protruding more, and just erase out some of that shadow. Okay. To me, that looks much, 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 much better. Okay. I feel like they look much more 3D now. Let's see, should I play with the hair or the dress? White is very difficult to render for me. It's just a challenge. A challenge. Oh wow, that is already set to multiply. That is not dark enough. Okay, so the lines for her dress are just not dark enough for me. So I'm going to clean up some of the line art because this started out as a rough sketch. So there's some extra lines that just aren't needed. I'm going to clean that up just a little bit. And once I'm happy with the cleanup, then I will show you guys a quick way to actually recolor this layer. And actually, I think I'm going to change my brush as well. So I'm going to bring up my quick menu, and I have multiple quick menus. I'm going to switch to my stabilized clean sketch brush. I was on my eraser, so it changed my eraser to that. But that's okay. Is that paint from her dress? I need to fix that. Yes, it was. Okay, that's better. Alright, so let's jump back up to the layer with the lines. Now, these lines are too light, so I'm going to recolor them. But while I'm sort of drawing in some corrective lines, it doesn't matter what color I'm painting with because I'm going to recolor everything once it's all said and done. think, yeah, it's set too big. Bring it back to my smaller size. And like sketchy lines like that, I don't mind so much, but I feel like they stand out in a weird way if it doesn't look intentional. And to me, they don't look that intentional. So I'm going to darken up areas where like the lines kind of meet to show the difference in those planes. This is like a wrinkle, not a wrinkle, but creases in the fabric. Okay, I think that looks much cleaner. So I think I can work with that. Alright, so to recolor this entire layer, you might have already seen it in my quick menu, but next to my eyedropper, I have an option called recolor enabled in my main quick menu. And it's funny, recolor actually used to be in the adjustments menu, and it was like down here toward the bottom. And for a long time, Procreate users thought that the Procreate company got completely rid of the recolor feature, and a lot of people were really angry. But it's not completely gone. You just, now you can only access it through the quick menu. So I'm just going to show you guys how that works and make sure I'm on the right layer. Yes, I'm on her line layer. So I've got a nice dark color selected. Let's say I just want like not pure black, but a very, very dark gray. I'm going to hold down my finger from my quick menu, and I'm going to the main menu. And now I'm going to select recolor. So what recolor is going to do, first of all, I have to get this little plus on one of the actual lines and then drop the threshold. It is not doing as I expected it. So you know what? I'm going to alpha lock it, and then I'm going to recolor. There we go. And fill that flood up to the max. And now, if I wanted, I could change my lines to, you know, whatever color I want. Oh, it's set to multiply, so it's not really going to show. But now I'm affecting all of them at the same time. And I think you can probably tell, especially like where her legs are overlapped, there's much more contrast. It just, to me, to my eye, I can tell the parts of her body much better with a darker color. So unlike a lot of other adjustments, if you tap your screen while you're on recolor, it will not bring up that preview menu. So just be aware of that. But I like that, so I'm just going to tap adjustments to turn that off. Her face got much, much darker. Like, much, much. Let me see. I don't think I need the line art to be quite as heavy up here as it is. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit too. Right over you, baby. And I just can't stop falling for you. I just can't stop falling for you. I don't know what we're doing. think I'm gonna get rid of that line. Because every time we chill, I end up naked. I don't know if her eye needs that line. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to lighten up some of these forehead lines. I mean, I want to indicate them. I want it to show, you know, she's got that like furrowed brow or whatever, but they look a little harsh now. Okay. I think I like that. I'm going to lighten up this line weight though. It looks very sketchy. And I just don't think that's necessary. And my music stopped. I wonder what happened to my music. There we go. And I'm still leaning into the camera. As much as I tried not to do it, I am still leaning into the camera. That's okay though. It's alpha locked. Okay. You can tell when I get in the zone because I get very quiet. These collarbones are so sketchy. We have just about 5 minutes left, so I'm not gonna ramble too much, but I want to thank everybody who joined me on both Instagram and YouTube. This drawing has been for the Mentor of Blades from That Afro Tarot, which is my upcoming deck. It is due to be live on Kickstarter on May 30th, so mark your calendars for sure. And yeah, I'm just going to be quiet and kind of draw for a little while longer. And once that timer beeps, I will end the stream. But thank you to everybody who came and hung out with me and left me some comments. You guys are the best. I think her legs look much cleaner now. And see how here it's kind of sketchy? I don't necessarily need to clean that up perfectly because at the actual size of the card, you won't be able to see all of that detail. So use your discretion. She's coming along. She is coming along. I'm gonna clean up some of these lines and then maybe add just a little bit of shading to her dress itself. It's so good to have a little tiny reference window because without doing a whole bunch of zooming in and out, I can see my entire piece and, you know, gauge how it's coming along. There we go. I'm gonna lighten up this line because it doesn't need that much weight. Ooh, she got hips. I swear, was my head in the camera again? I feel like it was, but I don't know. Maybe I scooted it back far enough. Okay, so before we close out, I'm gonna give her face some rendering so she's not so blank. Alright, so let's jump to her layer. And then I'm just gonna put one on top. It'll automatically become a clipping mask because she already had clipping masks above her. And let's pick her skin color and move more red, desaturate it a bit. And let's see what that does for her lips. So I'm gonna show another way to fill color. I'm on my selection tool, freehand, and I'm gonna turn on the color fill mode. And now I'm just going to trace the shape of these lips. Boom. Now, I think I want it darker, so I'm just going to touch my little color picker icon. It's very saturated. Maybe something like that. Let's see what that looks like. I actually like that. It's like neutral on her, but to me it works. So now I'm just going to pick a very light gray for her eyes and do the same thing. That's how you know we're on the home stretch when I start coloring in facial details. Oh, she already looks so much more alive to me. But I can see my timer is on the last 5 seconds, so it's about to go ahead and beep and signal the end of my stream for the day. Again, thank you to everyone who decided to come and hang out with me. I'm going to be doing some more live streams in the coming days to just share the art progress with you guys as we get closer to the launch for the Kickstarter. So, again, thank you so much, and we will hang out again soon. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them for me below on the replay, and I will address them in the next live. Alrighty, bye guys.